Mr. Secretary, thank you for joining us today. Just obviously, you saw what happened here in Kansas City today concerning Mayor Lucas. What were your initial thoughts about it?
Well, my initial thoughts were what happened? How do we make sure it doesn't happen in the future? And how do we resolve it? Originally we're like, okay, wait a minute. How do we take care of this? But as we dug into this situation, we found that what was being reported really wasn't what had happened, which was even to me scarier. What we found was that the mayor was not turned away. He was allowed to vote, and he chose not to. There are just some pretty simple facts to say here. There was no line in the polling location. He presented a utility bill to the poll worker, so the poll worker who has worked there for 20 years and who recognized the mayor and greeted the mayor as such needed to do a manual search in the poll pad. If the mayor had been kind enough just to use his driver's license, it would have automatically pulled up his information when they scanned him, but for some reason he was unwilling to do that. The poll worker, I guess, got befuddled because the mayor was right in front of them and either misspelled the name or juxtapositioned the first name and the last name. This took less than 5 minutes. The poll worker realizes he's having problems and asks the mayor if he would step over to the voting assistant supervisor. Now, you may say, well, gee, where was the voting assistant supervisor? This was really busy. There are all these people. No, there was no line. The voting assistant supervisor table was about 1.5 to 2 feet away. And the mayor says, no. The poll worker says, well, I can give you a provisional ballot because, as long as you're in the system, it'll vote. It'll count. The mayor says no, and the mayor leaves. The mayor was allowed to vote. He declined to vote. The poll worker was just trying to make sure he did it correctly, had some problems, wanted to say, hey, get my supervisor here, we'll take care of it, and the mayor refused. I would also say the mayor was in the system the whole time, and it concerns me that we have the mayor saying he was turned away when he wasn't. He was offered a ballot to vote. He declined it. The supervisor wanted to help him, was available to help him. He declined it. That's inappropriate. This sort of misinformation, this sort of disinformation could cause other individuals not to vote. And then the mayor said something about how, I was the mayor, so they called me to follow up. No, the Kansas City Board of Elections follows up with anyone that has problems. If anyone has to file specific paperwork, or if they turn in an absentee ballot and they don't have it notarized correctly, they follow up with them. I have worked with the Board of Elections, Republicans and Democrats, and they operate in a nonpartisan fashion to make sure that all voters matter and all voters are allowed to vote. And the idea that an individual in a trusted position like mayor would falsely denigrate our elections in a way that might, I think very conceivably, would have people not vote, say, well, if the mayor can't vote, they won't allow me to vote, is reprehensible. It is an attack on a fundamental part of our government, our elections, and I am amazed. I never would have thought that the mayor would stoop to such a level.
What did your office do to kind of start investigating this? I mean, what can, in your place, just how do you determine who's in the system or whatever, just to give people an idea, because this is going to turn into he said, but
which is great because we can back up everything. The statewide voter registration system we have. So we could check our system, but we also reached out because, it's not just a matter of our system, but we wanted to make sure that how did things work at the local election authority. So we reached out to the local election authority. They reached out to poll workers and the election supervisors that were at the polling place. I have been told by the election authority that the voting assistant supervisor actually had Mayor Lucas's voting registration screen up on her terminal when the mayor said, no, I'm leaving. he was not rejected. He rejected voting. He rejected their assistance. I went in to vote. There was no one in there voting at the time I went in. It took me more than 5 minutes. He would have been out of there in less than 10 minutes. He would have voted. He would have participated. And instead, he decided, I guess, to try to make a political scene, which unfortunately could cause other people not to participate.
It seemed like, the mayor wasted no time going to social media, Twitter and Facebook. What did it caught our morning team off guard a little bit by, we weren't expecting that. Just how do you think he handled it?
Well, obviously it was a setup. Do I think he handled it correctly by acting like a 20-year poll worker had stopped him from being able to vote when he himself had made the decision not to vote? I mean, it's fraudulent. And I think just the idea that he went immediately to Twitter instead of calling us, because that's what we do, is we help people, we take care of people. Ever since I've been Secretary of State, we've implemented the law so that no registered voter will be legally turned away from the polls. I mean, we're who you call. We have the voter registration system. We can take care of people's problems. But you see, he knew there wasn't a problem. He didn't want his, quote, problem to be taken care of. He wanted to go on social media and mislead people about our election systems. I can't think of any other reason for him to do that, and that's disgraceful.
The Casey Board of Election gave us a statement, and it kind of echoes what you just said. There were several ways this could have been rectified prior to a tweet. Just from your position, how do you think the Casey Election Board handled this?
At first I was concerned that they had not done a good job. And the immediacy was, the customer's always right. The mayor said something happened. We took him at his word. We wanted to solve it. But as we dug into this, it would appear that the Board of Elections did things correctly. And the mayor, frankly, at several opportunities, decided to act in a way which would cause a problem. And, that's his right if he wants to act that way. But for him to then throw a poll worker under the bus for what he did, it's hard to find poll workers. They work long hours. They don't get paid much. And they do it so that other people will be able to participate in our democratic system. And that's the most egregious portion of this, that he's going after a poll worker that's giving of his time or of her time so that other people can vote.
It seems, election security and the election process, that's become a hot issue. What does a story like this, or what does that say? I mean, just in terms of, you kind of touched on it earlier, but the concerns that people may have because of something like this.
I hadn't really thought about this. But you have people worried about election security. You have people worried about the Wuhan coronavirus. And the best people can do to cause problems is to fake an inability to vote. Think about that. We had election polling places where we were being called last week, even yesterday, and they said, hey, look, you can't use our polling place because we're worried about coronavirus. It tells me that our election authorities do a darn fine job on the whole doing elections, that in all of this chaos, they're making sure that registered voters can vote. And the only way to have a problem to throw up on social media is to falsify one. So that's what it tells me. Everyone was concerned about coronavirus, how that would throw it off election security. We've worked on election security with election authorities across the state. We've been sending out information and working with election authorities about the coronavirus. Frankly, I think this shows that the system works, that our election authorities across the state are committed to running good, nonpartisan, at least the administration would be nonpartisan elections. And it shows this is the heights that you have to go to if you want to cause trouble on social media. You have to fake problems.
Do you have any additional thoughts or additional statements on the situation? Anything else?
I want to applaud our local election authorities and our poll workers, our Board of Elections members that work tirelessly to make sure that every registered voter that actually wants to vote can. And I think we should not let political partisan stunts like this take away from the hard work they do, and I appreciate what they do and applaud them for it.